let us come to the last class of our surveying course, okay, in which we'll be talking about the remaining aspects that we are supposed to be touching upon in our curves topic. So we have in our last couple of classes, we have been talking about our simple curve. We have been talking about our compound curve. So in detail, how to understand what are the elements of those simple and compound curve, how do we set out those simple and compound curves, we have seen. We have got different methods, but ultimately we have focused on only some of those methods just to have an idea of how we are going to be setting out our simple or compound curves in the field. Next, moving on with the other type of your circular curve, that is your reverse curve. So as the name itself says, and as we have already understood what is meant by a reverse curve. So reverse curve is nothing but it is a combination of two simple curves again with same or different radius. But however, the center of one curve and the center of the other curve will not lie on the same side. Rather, they will be lying on the opposite sides to each other. Where the curvature of that particular reverse curve, what we are talking about, changes from the degree of curvature of that particular curve or the center of that particular reverse curve, what we are referring to, changes from one side to the other with respect to a particular point, and that particular point with respect to the nature of the curvature or the curvature of the curve is getting changed. So that point is what we are representing it as PRC. Okay, so point of your reverse curvature or reverse curve. Okay, PRC refers to point of reverse curve or reverse curvature. Okay, and if you look at this particular reverse curve, you are familiar with many of the notations already we have been talking about. So this is the first tangent, which we call it as your rear tangent, and subsequently this is our last tangent, rather, which we earlier used to call it as forward tangent. And this tangent what we have going from point V1 to V2, which is indicated here, is what is called as your common tangent, where this particular tangent is said to be common for one portion of the simple curve as well as for the other portion of the second simple curve. Rather, I can call it as this so-called common tangent is said to be a tangent for one curvature of the reverse curve and the other curvature of your reverse curve. And let's say, for example, this is my first simple curve which I am referring to, and this portion is what I am referring to, that of your second simple curve. Okay, and this angles what are indicating here are what we have already understood. This LC1, LC2 indicates you the length of the arc of that particular portion of your reverse curve. So for the first simple curve, length of the simple curve is indicated by LC1. Second simple curve is indicated by the arc length LC2. Okay, so notations are very common as like what we have seen earlier. So let us quickly understand what is this reverse curve mean? What is the necessity of this reverse curve? In which condition we go for this reverse curve, and in which conditions we avoid this particular reverse curve? That is what we'll be understanding about all this reverse curve in a general form. So basically, reverse curve consists of two simple curves of opposite direction that join at a common tangent point, which is what is called as point of reverse curvature, which I have already shown you. They are used, this particular reverse curves are used when the straights are parallel or include a very small angle of intersection. So whenever you have two straights in the sense, the first tangent and the last tangent, when the directions of those two first and last tangents are very close to each other. Earlier, in the case of a simple curve, we used to say, okay, these two tangents are like this, and in the same way, in the case of compound curve also we have talked about. But when it comes to the case of the reverse curve, let's look at here. This is the direction of first straight, this is the direction of your second straight. So what you see is that when your two straights are two initial and the rear tangent and the forward tangent, what we were trying to talk about, when those two tangents are rather looking almost parallel to each other or very close to each other, in such particular case, this so-called reverse curve is what we are coming across with to fit in that first straight line path to connect to that of your second straight line path. Formed by two simple curves having one common tangent and one common point of tangency. So these two portions of the reverse curve, with one portion of the reverse curve having the center on one side, other portion of the reverse curve having the center on the other side. So this change in curvature of this reverse curve is connected by a common tangent. So in this case, if we look at, so V1, V2 line, whatever is indicated, is representing you what is called as your common tangent line. And the common point of tangency is nothing but this is your point PRC, whatever we are referring to, which is nothing but point of your reverse curvature. The curves have their centers on the opposite side of the tangent, so which we have already talked about. Generally, these particular type of reverse curves are encountered in the areas of mountain regions. So most of the times in the countries like where you have more of mountain areas or valley regions existing. So in that particular areas, we go on to have the alignment of the roads or maybe alignment of your railway track or whatever. So with this particular reverse curve, what we are referring to, because the profile of the ground may not be suitable for a what is called as a simple curve or a compound curve. Rather, in such case, your nature of the alignment would be forcing you, though you might not be interested in going for reverse curve, but nature of that particular ground or the topography of that particular region would be forcing you to prefer what is called as your reverse curve. This is typically used in the layout of railway spur tracks in the sense the diversion, whenever you have your diversion routes along the railway alignment are routes of least importance where you need to have some diversions to subsequently have the diversion, the main track alignment. So in such particular cases, we'll be going for this reverse curve. And also for design of auxiliary lanes. Auxiliary lanes in the sense, let's say, for example, I have a highway, maybe a flyover is there. And from the flyover, once I get down from the flyover, if I want to divert my route, instead of going along the main line, if I want to have a diversion of my road by which I want to travel. So in such case, you will be having this kind of reverse curves provided so that now you can move ahead while you are traveling. Okay, so in such case, we go on to have this reverse curves provided along the alignment of your highways. And also in some particular cases where in order to decrease your traffic congestion, you might be forced to have multi-level road alignments. Okay, so in such particular cases also in the design of multi-level flyovers and so on, so you are forced to go on to provide what is called as this reverse curve. This curve is particularly avoided if at all possible. We'll try to maximally avoid this particular curve because the curvature of the curve is changing from one to the other suddenly, because of which if the driver is not careful, there could be a serious issue with regard to the people who are traveling through that particular vehicle. Okay, and it also causes the discomfort to the passengers who are traveling, and it also causes discomfort to the driver who is driving that particular vehicle along such kind of road alignments where you are forced to have your reverse curves. So most of the times, I think many of you might have witnessed this particular situation, like when you travel across the Ghat roads, many of you will have the sensation of vomiting or headache or other health issues. That is all because of the continuous change in the curvature of the road. People may not feel comfortable, because of which you will have that ill health and other aspects. So as much as possible, we'll try to avoid such kind of reverse curves, random change in the curvature of your road alignment. So we try to prefer to have as much as possible the straight road with less If at all curves are there with less effect of curvature, we'll try to align them. But in case if it is not possible, so we are required to go on to design curves. But however, to that possible extent, we try to minimize the effect of this reverse curves, which are considered in the design of your road alignment or track alignment. May result in difficulties for drivers to keep their lanes, because when you are trying to travel along this reverse curves, it would be difficult for the driver to stay in the same line in which he is trying to travel, because while traveling along such kind of reverse curves, as the curvature is suddenly getting changed, so driver has to be more cautious while driving through that particular region. But however, these kind of curves could be preferred in the areas where the speed restrictions had to be implemented, where the people are not supposed to be allowed to travel at higher speeds. So in such cases, these kind of reverse curves are more preferable to reduce the speed levels of the vehicle. So whenever these reverse curves are to be compulsorily implemented, there is no other alternative to avoid. So I have to compulsorily go on to implement it. So in such case, we have to take some precautionary measures. Okay, we are still going with the reverse curves, but however, you should have a proper length of your straight line provided, so that the effect of sudden change of the curvature will get minimized, and the drivers or the passengers will have certain comfort while driving across through that particular region also. So when it is necessary to reverse your alignment, when it is necessary to compulsorily provide your reverse curve, it is preferable to design two simple curves. Okay, yes, we are going to design two simple curves. This is one simple curve, another simple curve like this. By separating those two simple curves by sufficient length, okay, so by sufficient length of tangent distance between them, so that you can achieve a proper super elevation without having any discomfort for your travel. Next, moving on to the transition curve. So the word transition itself says there is a change in the curvature of the curve. Earlier, either your simple curve, or when you are talking about your compound curve or your reverse curve, to some portion of the curve at least. In the case of simple curve, the complete curvature of the curve, the radius of the curve was completely constant. It was for the complete simple curve, the radius was same. In the case of compound curve, at least for portion of one simple curve, the radius was constant. For the portion of the other simple curve, the radius was something else, but it is constant for that portion of the curve. In the same way for reverse curve also. For some portion of the reverse nature of the curve, the radius is constant. For the other nature of the curve, the radius is constant. But when it comes to your transition curve, so it is nothing but it's a curve of varying radius. So that particular curve which has got a varying radius, so that is what we call it as your transition curve. So a curve of varying radius is what is known as transition curve. So the radius of such curve varies from infinity to certain fixed value. So initially that particular curve looks more or less flat, and you might see some change in the curvatures like this. Okay, so such kind of curves are what is called as your transition curves. A transition curve is provided on both ends of your circular curve. So whenever you are providing a circular curve, so in order to minimize the effect of the end of your circular curve, so we prefer to go on to extend those circular curve starting and the ending part of it with the help of this transition curve, where the radius of that particular curve can be slowly minimized, and you can take it on to a flatter nature of the alignment for that particular road or the track. The transition curve is also otherwise called as your spiral or easement curve. So what is the objective of providing this particular transition curves? So as I told you, like to have a proper road alignment at the starting and the ending portion of your circular curves, this transition curves are preferable, so that now the effect of the curvature can be slowly minimized, and it can be brought to the straight alignment of your road or your railway track. So what are the objectives for providing this particular transition curves? So it is ultimately to accomplish the gradual change in the transition, slow change in the curvature of that particular curve, or curvature of that particular circular curve at its starting part and as well as at its end part. So in order to fulfill that, we are going to provide this transition curve, and to provide or to obtain rather a gradual increase of curvature from 0 at a tangent point to the specified quantity at the junction of the transition curve with the circular curve. So what happens is, whenever you are talking about straights, which we have discussed about, so or a straight line alignment, so the alignment goes like this, and if at all I want to provide a circular curve here, I will not directly change the curvature of this. So rather we slowly change the alignment so that your effect of that curve will not be felt while traveling on that particular aligned path. To provide the super elevation gradually from 0 at the tangent point to the specified amount to the circular curve. Okay, so more or less the earlier point and this point is same. And also to avoid the effect of overturning of your vehicle. So at the starting of your circular curve and at the end of your circular curve, what we would be seeing is, because of the effect of your centrifugal force, as the weight of the vehicle is acting in the downward direction, and you will be witnessing that because of the effect of centrifugal force acting on the vehicle will be pulled out from the region of the alignment of your pavement or maybe your railway track. So in such particular case, to minimize the effect of that centrifugal force on that particular vehicle, which pulls out your vehicle from its original direction of the moment. So in such particular cases, to avoid that effect of overturning in the sense, because of the effect of the centrifugal force, you are going to see overturning effect, because you wanted to have your vehicle to change the alignment immediately, but because of the velocity with which the vehicle is traveling and because of the weight of that vehicle, so you would see the centrifugal force pulls away the vehicle away from the alignment of that curved surface and results in the disaster there. So to avoid such kind of overturning effects in the vehicle, you are going to be providing this transition curve, where the nature of the curvature of the curve slowly changes and the effect of the centrifugal force on the vehicle can be minimized. So what are the requirements of an ideal transition curve? So what it has to be satisfying basically, or how it has to be. It should meet the original straight lines tangentially. So at the starting and the ending point of your circular curve, so where you have your straight lines or straights, there these transition curves should be more or less intersecting them tangentially. It should meet your circular curve also tangentially. Its radius at the junction with the circular curve should be same as that of the radius of your circular curve. Then only you will have a proper intersection of your transition curve with respect to that of your circular curve. The rate of increase of the curvature along the transition curve should be same as that in the case of your super elevation. So when you are trying to increase the curvature of the curve in the case of your transition curves, I said the radius of the curve is not constant. So we continuously keep on changing the radius of the curvature. So the rate at which that radius of the curvature is getting changed has to be kept constant throughout the length of your transition curve, which you are going to be providing. The length should be such that the full super elevation is attained at the junction with the circular curve. So whatever the maximum elevation that you want to reach to avoid the effect of the centrifugal force on that particular vehicle, that so-called full super elevation has to be attained at the junction of that particular circular curve. What are the different types of transition curves that we are going to be coming across with? So most commonly, we are going to be coming across with these different varieties of transition curves, which are commonly used in the alignments of the roads or railway tracks. So one is a cubic parabola shaped curvature, and the other is a clathoid or a spiral shaped curvature of transition curve, or a Lemniscate type of transition curve is what we commonly provide. We are not going into much details of all this reverse curve or transition curve, or rather the next one, the vertical curve. We are just trying to have an insight to these particular types of curves. That's it. The first type of curve, that is your cubical curve, is mostly preferred in the case of railways, railway alignment, track alignment, and the last one is most preferably used in the case of your roadways. Moving on with the next type of curves. Earlier, whatever we have been talking about is all called as your horizontal curves. Now, this what I am trying to talk about is vertical curves. Okay. So earlier itself, we have discussed like what is the use of a vertical curve. We said whenever you want to have a proper change in the gradation of that particular profile of the ground. Okay. So where the elevations of two particular different places are different. So in order to connect those two particular different elevation points, so you should have a proper grade or proper slope at which your road alignment is to be done. So that particular proper grade or slope at which your road alignment is done is what is called as your vertical curve. That grade at which your road alignment is provided in the vertical plane. Okay, with what slope the alignment of the road is provided in the vertical plane. So that is what is called as your vertical curve. When two different or contrary gradients meet, contrary in the sense different types of gradients. To some portion it could be a positive gradient, to some portion it could be a negative gradient. Okay, that is what is called as contrary gradient, or vice versa. To some portion it is a negative gradient, and rest portion of the curve it could be a positive gradient, increase in the gradient. Okay, decrease in slope, increase in slope, or rather increase in slope, decrease in slope. That is what is called as your contrary gradients. Or it could be an increase in slope and further increase in slope, or rather decrease in slope and continuous decrease in slope. So you can have different types of vertical curves which you are going to be coming across according to your necessity in the field while aligning your required pavement or required track or required canal according to your necessity. Because in the case of canal, we don't talk about increase and decrease in your grade, because most of the times the canal are aligned to have a proper gravitational flow to exist there. So your slope of that canal bottom is going to be mostly continuous with either rather I should not say either, it is going to be a continuous decrease in your grade there. So it's a continuous decrease in the slope is what we are going to be seeing in the case of your canal alignment. But in the case of other it could be road or railway track alignment. So you might come across with different cases of changing the profile of your ground or the alignment of your path according to the field conditions what are prevailing. It is advisable to introduce a vertical curve in road and in railway work in order to round off the angle and to obtain a gradual change in grade so that abrupt change in the grade is avoided at the apex. So what we do is, let's say for example, here is the ground level, here is the other ground level. If I want to connect these two elevations, so what I'll be doing, I cannot just take my ground like this and I cannot say people to climb it with their vehicle like this. So what is that rather we are doing? We are going to provide a proper sloping from one point to the other point to reach, so that you will not have difficulty in the moment. Sometimes what happens is you might be finding some slope of the ground like this, somewhere the other slope of the ground to be like this. You cannot have sudden change in the slope or the nature of the curvature of that particular slope in the vertical plane. So rather how it has to be means, if it is increasing, okay, let it increase, and if it is decreasing, let it decrease. So you should have a smooth change in the curvature of that particular curve, so that the effect of movement on that particular alignment of the vertical curve is not going to be causing much danger to the people who are traveling over that, and it will not cause the discomfort to the people because of sudden change in the curvature. At the apex point, you are going to see people or the vehicle suddenly getting jumped out of the plane. It will lose the contact with the road and it will jump in the forward direction. So that is sometimes a difficult task what you are going to be seeing. And what is the objective of providing your vertical curves? So it gives what is called as an adequate visibility and safety to the traffic when they are moving, because if you have a proper slope at which your alignment of the road is done in the vertical plane, so you'll have a proper visibility, and with great ease you can travel on such kind of road. It gives gradual change in the grade or slope. It gives adequate comfort to the passengers when they are traveling on such kind of alignment, road alignment or track alignment. What are the different types of vertical curves that we are going to be coming across with? As I mentioned, like you might have a vertical curve with upgrade. Upgrade means the slope in the increasing manner, or the slope in the positive direction, followed by a downgrade. Downgrade indicates that slope in the downward direction. And other type of vertical curve could be with a downgrade followed by an upgrade. I'll show you those pictures. And other type could be an upgrade followed by another upgrade. And another type of the vertical curve, what you might be coming across with, is a downgrade followed by another downgrade. So let us quickly understand what is this an upgrade followed by an upgrade vertical curve means. So if you look at here, this is your vertical curve, what we are talking about. This is my vertical curve going from the point O to B. Now, if you look at here, this particular curve which is going from the point O to B has got different slope for that ground. So in the portion of the curve going from O to F, in this region of the curve, you understand that the slope of the curve is continuously increasing. Anywhere on that curve, if you draw a tangent, the slope is nothing but the slope of that ground. Rather, we call it as the grade of that particular road is positive. Whereas the rest portion of the curve, if you are looking at, which is from point F to point B, we say it is a downgrade. Downgrade means the tangent, whatever you are going to be drawing at any point on this particular region of the curve, so that tangent is going to be having a negative slope. So such kind of alignment is what is called as a downgrade, or the slope is going to be negative for that particular alignment. Okay, so that is what we call it as a vertical curve with upgrade followed by a downgrade. Increase in slope and decrease in slope. This is one type. And another type could be with a downgrade followed by an upgrade. If you look at here from point O to point F, along that particular portion of the curve, anywhere if you are trying to draw a tangent, the slope what you are going to be getting is a negative slope. Okay, and from point F to point B, whenever you are trying to draw a tangent anywhere to the portion of the curve, you see the tangent what you are getting is nothing but it is with a positive slope. So the portion of the curve with negative slope followed by the portion of the curve with positive slope. That is what is called as a vertical curve, which is of downgrade followed by an upgrade. And the other type is an upgrade followed by another upgrade. So if you see here, this is how my curve is changing, and suddenly we understand that the curvature of the curve is changing like this. So which indicates, I don't say road goes vertically in the upward direction, just to have an idea, I'm just indicating it here. Okay, so where here the slope with which the change is happening in some region is more or less something constant, and beyond some portion of the curve we see that the slope is increasing. Our slope is still positive, but the rate at which the increase in slope is high, or the rate at which the slope increase in slope is relatively low. Okay, so such kind of slope is what is called as an upgrade followed by another upgrade. So in this region of the curve, the slope of that any tangent drawn to that curve is positive. In this region also, any tangent drawn to that particular portion of the curve is also positive. Tangent or slope is positive. Okay, but however, that magnitude of the slope what you are calculating is not going to be same in both the cases. So such kind of curve is what is called as an upgrade followed by another upgrade. And the other case could be a downgrade followed by another downgrade. So if you look at for this portion or for this region of the curve, we are more or less assuming that the slope to be constantly decreasing till point F, and from point F further it is decreasing, but with some other different slope. Okay, so this kind of vertical curve is what is called as a downgrade followed by another downgrade. So these are broadly the different types of vertical curves what we are going to be coming across in the alignment of your road or in the alignment of your so-called railway tracks. Okay, so as we have understood, so in a broader way, we have talked about what is meant by a curve, and then we went on to understand the curves are broadly categorized as two types: horizontal curves and vertical curves. And in horizontal curves, we went on to understand the different types of horizontal curves. And in the case of vertical curves, we have understood what are the different types of vertical curves. In which case, we go on to provide which type of horizontal curve we have talked about. In which case, we are going to prefer to go for what is called as your vertical curves. This is what we have all understood in this particular concept of curves. Okay, so mainly this concept of curves is something very important whenever you are talking about your route surveys. Route surveys in the sense when you are required to carry out a survey for an alignment of a road or for the alignment of any railway track alignment, or for the alignment of a canal or maybe any channel, whatever you want to take it from one point to the other point. So with least difficulty. So in such cases, we go on to implement these specific type of curves according to your necessity and the need for that particular field condition. So we go on to implement that particular type of curves there. Okay, so it is all about the complete surveying course